All right, so it is about 12:02 now. So we want to again welcome everybody to today's World Refugee Day panel discussion with the IRC in Atlanta. My name is Justin Howell. I'm the Executive Director for the IRC in Atlanta. And it's my privilege to be here with you all today. Those of you who joined us here on Zoom, or if you are watching us as we stream live on Facebook. We are here today in honor of World Refugee Day, which is coming up this Sunday. We know that, or many of you do know, and hopefully you've seen on our Facebook page and as well as newsletters, that we are going to be participating in a World Refugee Day event this Sunday at Refuge Coffee in Clarkston. And so in sort of conjunction with that, which will really highlight the contributions of the refugee community, and we'll highlight many of the clients that we work with and community members that support the Refugee Resettlement Program. Today, really wanted to, in the spirit of gratitude and honoring the work of welcoming refugees and serving refugees, we wanted to allow our supporters and our community supporters to get to know a little bit more of the staff here that work at the IRC in Atlanta, and who bring their passion and professionalism to this work every single day to serve the community. And so really happy to have some members of the team, which I'll be introducing, and we'll be having a panel discussion here momentarily. Before we do that though, I again want to remind you that while we are on Zoom here, as well as streaming on Facebook Live, that we do have some of our team who are monitoring the chat in Zoom, as well as comments on Facebook Live. So during this discussion, you will not be able to unmute yourself, unfortunately, but you can always type questions there, and we will make sure that some of those questions get answered at the end. Yeah, and of course, we may not have enough time, but if you leave a question, maybe even send your email. I know you can send private chats on Zoom. You send your email address, and we'd be happy to get back with you individually as well. So again, want to welcome everybody. So with that, I really want to turn the spotlight over to the team here at the IRC and really make the work that we do so successful. And so I'd like to start off with introductions. So just going to ask the team here if they could share with us their name, their current position, how long they've been with the IRC. So we will start with Hayat.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Justin. I'm Hayat Ahmed, the Community Integration Manager overseeing the immigration program. I have been with the IRC close to 9 years now. Thank you.
Thanks, Hayat. Amal?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amal Abdi, and I'm the Logistics Manager at the IRC Atlanta office. And I started as a contract interpreter in 2009 and became a staff member in 2012. So I've been with the IRC for a while.
Thank you, Amal. Omar.
Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Omar Aziz. I'm the Community Health Response Manager with IRC. I have been working with IRC close to 7 years. I started as an Arabic interpreter, and then youth coordinator, and then now the Community Health Response Manager. Thank you. Thank you, Justin.
Great. Thank you, Omar. And Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Potts, and I'm the Microenterprise Development Coordinator here. And I have been with the IRC for almost a year and a half.
Great. And helping us behind the scenes and helping set up the logistics today and monitoring the chats and comments is our development manager, Kaylee. Kaylee?
Hi, everyone. I'm here with Fiona. It's a little tag team effort with the tech, so hopefully that's okay. But we just wanted to say hi. We're so appreciative of everyone spending your lunch hour with us today. These colleagues of ours on this screen really are so incredible and amazing at what they do. And so we're just so excited that they get to share a little bit with you today. So thanks so much for joining us. And if you do have any questions, like Justin said, put them in the chat and we'll hopefully have time to address them at the end. Thanks.
Great. So get you familiar with some of the team here today. They're going to be sharing their experiences, the work they do here to make sure that we really are able to address the needs and to be able to support refugees as they start their lives anew here in the Atlanta area. So my first question is, we here at the IRC in Atlanta, and by we, I mean collectively we, I think we all share a vision of our agency as really providing a comprehensive, holistic suite of programs to support the community, to really ensure that community members have the opportunities needed to thrive in their new communities. So my first question to the panel is, what role do you and your team play in ensuring community members that we serve have the supports they need to integrate and thrive in the communities throughout Georgia? And if you could, maybe even illustrate sort of the impact you see with a particular example from maybe a client or a family you served in the not so distant past. So how about we'll start with Amal.
Sure. Thank you, Justin. One of the critical services that the logistics team provides is interpretation. Even before our families are able to receive services from the diverse programs that we have, the most crucial thing is that they need to be heard and understood, and they need to be able to voice their needs. And so for that reason, we have a team in-house of a team of diverse interpreters that speak about 20 languages between all of them. And they provide interpretation services not just to the IRC office and its staff and the clients, but also to community partners. And a lot of these interpreters themselves are people who were former refugees and also immigrants, and have been served by the IRC in some capacity. So it's kind of coming full circle in terms of like now they're part of the process of serving the people that we assist with a lot of things. And also in addition, we do have a resettlement department that provides a lot of, that houses the casework services that our clients need. When people arrive, they get assigned a caseworker. There's also caseworkers involved in providing services outside of the RNP or the resettlement period, the initial period that when they first arrive. And in terms of, I guess, an impact that the program has had, I will speak for myself and say that interpretation is probably one of the most impactful things. When our clients, imagine this, they arrive in the US, they don't know the language, they don't know the people, everything looks really foreign to them. And as soon as they walk out of the gate and they encounter an interpreter, it immediately diffuses a lot of their anxiety. And this is something that myself, as a former interpreter, that I've witnessed, clients telling me, I didn't think I would ever meet someone like me, that I can tell has meant a lot to them. And it's part of the reason why we strengthen our interpretation services a lot.
Great, thank you, Amal. And also just let everybody know, the interpretation services Amal and her team provide the community are just a small part of what her team actually also do to support the resettlement program. They're also, and we'll hopefully get to hear about that a little bit later in terms of also delivering items to the community members, especially over the last several months with COVID, or last year with COVID, as well as helping with transportation and other things. So the logistics team here in Atlanta is a crucial part to our success, and we really, and making services accessible to community members. And so we really appreciate that work that Amal is leading with the logistics team. How about over to you, Jennifer, in terms of just what role you play and your broader sort of the team you're a part of, and how you sort of fit that tapestry of comprehensive holistic services that we offer to community members.
Sure. So I work as part of a larger team known as the asset building team. And this is where we support clients really on that next step after their initial resettlement period, where clients are looking to work towards greater economic stability and mobility in their communities. And we do that through a couple of programs. One of the programs that we have is a match savings program that allows clients to save for an asset purchase, such as a car or a home. We have a career development program that assists clients in getting certifications and education necessary for that next level, higher paying, in-demand job, like commercial trucking, something in the tech industry, or in healthcare. And then in my program, the Microenterprise program, I work with clients to gain that financial independence by providing loans and training to start or expand businesses so they can support themselves and their families, and oftentimes hiring employees in the community. we bundle all of that with financial coaching. So all of these clients that are coming for that next level are working with our financial coach to go over their credit history, to do budgets, and start planning for those goals that they're working towards as they continue to integrate into the community.
Great. So what I'm hearing also is just to uplift is that, you know, the asset building team really is sort of program that comes after a community member may get their first job here in the U.S., right? So while we do have a whole team that is part of our economic empowerment program that really works with early employment, you and your colleagues really are sort of taking the ball from there and saying, okay, here's how you build assets in this setting. Here's how we can give you access to loans, and really just sort of bolster that entrepreneurial spirit we know so many refugees arrive with, right? So helping them start businesses or strengthen businesses, right? So it's a great thing to uplift is that, again, not only is a holistic suite of services, but over an extended period of time, right? Not just for an initial period, but we're really talking about serving clients, you know, as long as they need us while they're creating their lives here in the U.S. So maybe as we talk about time and, you know, the trajectory of refugee community members over time and what their ultimate pursuits are or aims are for, maybe we can turn to Hayat and she can talk a little bit about how, you know, immigration services fits into that.
Program provides different core immigration services, starting from adjustment of status, which is green card, family reunification, and ultimately for citizenship. We want all our refugee clients to ultimately apply for citizenship and become US citizens. Thinking of a client that that comes to mind when I think of immigration services and when I hear everybody speak is in 2014, I remember I assisted somebody who barely spoke English. I used an interpreter to provide him with the family reunification service that because he had left family behind. And then we assisted him a year after his arrival with his green card, and my team members just recently helped him naturalize. All his family are here, and we also helped the family, the children naturalize. That comes to mind. And that same client had a service provided by the Economic Empowerment Department to start his own business. So seeing those clients thrive, and as we provide them different services and just within the immigration program, all the services that if they went to an attorney or a law firm, it would cost them a lot more money. But here we could provide them free service. We could provide them on a nominal cost. So it's a legal service that we provide, you know, at a nominal cost with legal representatives that are recognized by immigration.
That's a great story. I think that's something that also, you know, it strikes me is also just to remember that while we all often do talk about it and in reality do serve families, right? There are so many times when family members, or even though they themselves or their immediate families may have arrived here safely and successfully and are now thriving in their new communities and building assets and really, you know, buying houses and buying cars, getting their second, third, fourth job, seeing their kids go to college. There's always, you know, loved ones at certain times, maybe very close and sometimes maybe a little more removed, that are left, you know, kind of left behind. And so it's great to hear that we have services that are able to not only support family members that are here, but also to help them reunite with their loved ones. And those are great stories when those happen. So really appreciate you and your team for that. To Omar now, talking about holistic services, especially talking about holistic services that meet the needs of the community, especially coming on the heels of a pandemic. We turn to Omar Aziz, and I know many of you know Omar, and you've probably seen him either on the news or you've read his story in newsletters. But Omar shows the spirit of being able to be flexible and to step up into gaps when there's gaps in services to meet the needs of the community. So I'd like to turn it over to Omar to share a little bit about how you see your program and what you've done in terms of that comprehensive suite of services that we offer community members. Turn it over to you, Omar.
Justin. So I'll just go a little back to the last year. So when the pandemic hit in March 2020, so the IRC Atlanta leadership decided to step in and take a role to the pandemic response. So the IRC partnered with CORE. CORE is the community organized relief efforts to increase the COVID-19 testing accessibility for the community. So we launched our first mobile testing site on the first week of May at one of the apartment complex where our community live. And we were able during the 3 days to test over 500. And then from there, we continued doing the mobile COVID-19 testing around the Clarkston. So we have over 40 events, and we were focusing on the apartment complexes, religious places, community organization where the RIM community live. And also our sites were open to all people, like all American, I said. And we have a team of 18 who are from the community and who has a potential to speak 20 languages. So our goal was to overcome the barriers for our community, especially the language and the transportation. So we are going to them and make that service available for them. Then on December, when the FDA gave the emergency use authorized for the vaccine, we stepped in, and also we have our first mobile vaccine site on January with one of the local clinic, and we were able to provide over 500 doses. And then our partner has the access to the state, to the DPH. Actually, our partner signed a contract with the state, with the DPH, Georgia Department Board of Health, and we launch our own mobile vaccination sites. And then we expand the teams. So now we have 3 teams around the whole DeKalb County, doing 15 events every week in different locations. And we were able to provide over 6,000 doses through April, May, and the first 2 weeks of June. And I'll just also to thank here and everywhere, thank my team, especially who were able to step in and to face the pandemic, and they're from the community. Most of them has a medical background. And also, I want to share with you one a very successful story. I'm proud of that to be a part of that story. So 2 years ago, there's a family registered by IRC, family of I think 7 or 8. I was able to register their kids at the school and enroll 2 of them with our Connect Success program. That program is the out of school program. So I was able to enroll them, and one of them now, he's one of our amazing site manager. He's around the county. He's running a mobile vaccination site. And also at the same time, he got accepted at the nursing school at the Georgia State. So with this kind of people, of their potential, and they're willing to help and serve the community, regardless they're anything. And again, our sites also are open for everybody. It's not just for their community. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. So a couple things I want to uplift there is there's a lot there. I think your story kind of ties together all the pieces we've just talked about, some of the things we highlighted, right? I think the first thing that strikes me is just, again, this example of having played a role within our organization for many years already, but then at a time of real crisis, being able to be flexible and step into that space. Many people hopefully know that your background was you yourself were a medical care provider back in Iraq before you came to the States. And, I remember you just stepping forward saying, this is what we need to do. And so I think, that first of all, just really embodies the spirit I think that we see amongst the community at large of just of doing what it takes to give back, right? And being contributing members to the overall well-being of our community, especially during the pandemic, right? I also want to uplift it's also interesting how your example is so representative of how we define community changes, right? The community that we serve. I think you uplifted the fact that, and many people know us as a refugee resettlement agency. I think if you ask many people in our agency, a lot of us see ourselves as a human services organization first and foremost, and that we're called to really help serve people who are in need of the particular suite of services that we can provide. And so, I think to see Omar and his team step into that space just represents that. Also just want to uplift too the fact that, trying to hire community members that reflect the communities we're trying to serve, because of the language access and the cultural competency that Amal talked about earlier is so key, right? And then giving 20-ish, 20, 30-ish young people employment opportunity during a pandemic, to Jennifer and her team's point of, providing employment opportunities, so important during a time like this, and for them to be able to do something that advances either their past experiences or what their aspirations to be, like you said, your example of the person getting into nursing school, right? I mean, these are great opportunities for people who can really both, give back to the community, serve the community, and also continue to advance their hopes and dreams, right? So it's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that with us, Omar. And so I want to piggyback a little bit on that theme of Omar, of sort of this pivot, and give you all an opportunity to talk a little bit about how your programs had to pivot over these last 15 or so months that we've been working in this pandemic with this sort of remote hybrid work setting. So maybe we can start with you, Amal, a little bit about how you and your logistics team have pivoted.
Sure, thank you, Justin. I'd like to touch on a couple of points. The first is that when the pandemic hit, we realized that one of the key services that our community members would need would be food support. And so we had funding through different sources that we had been using for other things. And we realized that we can pull together all these resources in a collaborative effort between the logistics team and, of course, the youth team's New Roots coordinator, and see if we can maybe open a food pantry at the office. And that's what we did. We started a food pantry, and we started doing weekly food deliveries to families that were impacted by the pandemic, either because of wage loss or because of they themselves are self-quarantining because of the exposure to the virus. And I would say that overall, we delivered about 500 food boxes in the course of the pandemic up until now, meaning like about a week's worth of groceries per box. And in addition to that, I would also like to highlight the resettlement team's work in terms of providing rental assistance to families also impacted by the pandemic, specifically families who were behind on rent due to the pandemic. We secured funding through the CARES Act, a sizable amount that we were able to use to provide rental assistance, utility assistance to about 100 households. And so I think those were very critical. And of course, our food support services are ongoing and will continue to be so until we feel that our families are in a place where they are, once again able to resume normal life.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, just so we understand, basically 500 weeks worth of food is equivalent of about 9.6 years worth of food that we were able to, to get into the community, which is an amazing feat, especially as you mentioned, because we were really trying to, yes, serve that family, but also really try to help them follow quarantine guidelines so that they can ensure and protect the safety of their loved ones, their friends, their community, right? So that was a great thing that we did. And just also to highlight, I know you mentioned New Roots, which is in our youth program. That's a program that typically does nutrition and nutrition education with youth in the different schools that we work in, everything from high school to elementary school. Also run community gardens around. So again, another example of having sort of expertise in a certain area that we, pivoted with to help meet the needs of the community. So providing fresh, healthy food to community members during a time like this was huge. So I really want to uplift that. And the other thing, just also, I see that we have some of our casework staff here. Also, acknowledging that in the last year they've distributed over $500,000 worth of direct assistance to help people pay their rent and their utilities and other essentials during a time like this. And that was all monies we got from various sources that had their own various requirements in terms of eligibility and reporting. So just acknowledging and uplifting the work that they did to be able to, get those funds into the pockets of community members who needed it during such a dire time is really incredible work. So thank you for that, Amal. How about pivoting over to talk about the COVID pivot to Jennifer?
Yes, so I can share a couple of examples of how our team quickly pivoted and did some iterations of how we continue to work with clients. And one of the ways that we quickly pivoted to a remote environment was through our direct service delivery. We weren't able to meet with clients face-to-face anymore. So we worked with trial and error on remote services through video platforms. So we tried Google Meets, SlideShare, different ways that we can meet with clients to still provide technical assistance or any sort of services that they were requested. And to Amal's point, in April of last year, my team, we really took a step back from just providing business services, but reaching out proactively to all of our clients to conduct a needs assessment. So not just asking about, is your business still open, but proactively gauging their basic financial security, to what she spoke about, food security in the household. Did they need help with rental assistance if they lost income? Did they need help with job placements or accessing other public benefits that they might have been eligible for at that time? Another way, and specifically in the Microenterprise program, was switching from just focusing on access to capital through loans, but really pivoting and looking at what regional and federal resources are out there that we could use to help these businesses survive during this time. And so last summer, we were able to help 14 clients get grants that were really open into what they could use them for. They could use them to pay for their business expenses or anything that they needed to do in order to still generate income, but they could also use it for those basic needs like rent and food and gas. And then looking again earlier this year, as we were working towards recovery, 10 more clients received grants through what we call business pivot grants. So business owners could apply for this and use it to make specific COVID-19 pivots. So some of our clients used it to buy equipment to have new products. One example is a business owner who used to primarily have a catering business, but due to COVID-19, no one's gathering in event spaces. So she pivoted to online digital sales and also to farmers markets. And so she asked if she could use her grant money to buy a fryer, and now sells falafel at 5 different farmers markets throughout the week and is able to increase her sales. Another example is a grocery store owner who used to sell at an international mall, but after COVID-19, the mall had closed down and he wasn't able to enter to get any of his inventory. So he quickly pivoted to delivery services of grocery products throughout the Afghan community that he is seen as a leader of, and then was able to rent another space and now has this grocery store on Lawrenceville Highway where he has a bakery in the back. He sells halal meat on the weekends. He accepts SNAP benefits, and he applied for the grant to really do personal protective equipment. So he put up his masks and hand sanitizers for all customers who were coming through, but also plexiglass so that he could have that protection with customers. And then also used it to repair tires so he could continue delivering products as one of his pivots to his business. So in the past year and a half, on our team, we've been pivoting to sort of stepping outside of our role and looking at a broader, like, what are the needs of our clients right now? What can we do with them to get them through this time? But also looking at how can we pivot your business? How can we move forward and use innovative ways so that you can gain more customers, but also still have that income for your family?
there's a lot there, and I appreciate that. I think a couple things that come to my mind, as we talk about World Refugee Day, we always talk about the resilience of the refugee communities, right? We see refugee friends relocate to this community. We see them, build new lives and build businesses and thrive, right? And so, I think it's really interesting as we talk about it as an agency and as a staff that, here to serve the community, sort of that reciprocal or, I don't know what, interdependent kind of relationship, like what comes first? Is it an agency's resiliency during COVID, or is it really a reflection of our clients' resiliency, knowing that if our clients can be resilient during times of crisis, we as an agency also can be resilient to continue to serve during things like unforeseen pandemics, right? I think that's great to hear community members who use this opportunity to now be in a position to make more products or serve in a greater way, so that they can also increase their assets and they can build their businesses and build wealth amongst their families, right? Other thing I also think about is access, right? You're talking about how your team pivoted to serve individuals, but also businesses to access some of those federal funds. All the federal funds or state funds or local funds in the world are great, but if you don't have access to them, what good are they, right? So to be able to be, a dedicated, trusted voice that community members can get, what they know is trusted information to how to navigate these things, which are very complex. That is huge. I think, again, that's also something, we see in terms of what we talked about with access with Amal and her team, access to fresh and healthy food when you're sick, or you need to quarantine, or access to interpretation services so that you can access services in the community around you, right? I think the other thing you pointed out is also just want to also reflect a little bit, just so we can update some of our community supporters here. Just on, you talked about having to go from in-person to hybrid, so basically, as everybody knows, we, like so many other institutions, really went into response mode 15 months ago. And for a period of time, we did shut down all essential services, right? We didn't have a vaccine. We didn't know what the outcome of this virus was. We knew it was spreading. So to protect the community and our staff, we went completely remote. And to see staff work with clients in a way that, it was a learning experience on both sides. I think we'd all agree, right? It was a learning experience on our side, but also a learning experience on our client side, but we were learning together, this sense of community. We're going to get through this together. We're here to support one another. We're not doing for you, and we're doing this together. And I just also want to uplift in that spirit of trying to find ways to use technology. I know the adult ed team here, right, spoke about how during this time, you can imagine teaching English remotely is a challenge in itself, but to see them use digital platforms to expand our reach into, now we have clients who join our ESOL classes from Florida, and even internationally, we have people that join us from Colombia. As well as some of our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico as well. So, I think it just goes to show, again, this sort of general trend of trying to leverage opportunities, even if they're not necessarily good situations, to then come out stronger on the other end, which, again, I think speaks to that resiliency piece. So thanks for that, Jennifer. A lot there. Hayat, over to you, and how you and the immigration team had to pivot during COVID?
Sure, thank you. So it was definitely a challenging time when the COVID hit. We were able to serve clients virtually. We had initially a project pre-COVID where we were able to give citizenship services remotely. So the citizenship piece was easier to implement during that time, but the other pieces we had to navigate, because this is a legal service where you have to get documents, where you have to, meet the person, like talk to them when you're doing the application for their green card, citizenship, family reunification, those type of application. So we were able to do that over the phone using Zoom, different kind of like WhatsApp. So we made sure we provided that service where we would just do it in person, in office. So we were able to see what works, what doesn't work. We created, because our office was completely closed during that time, we had a Dropbox where people could drop off their documents for us, and for us to submit their application on their behalf. So those are the few things that we were able to do. There are certain things, certain projects, for example, the Civic Engagement project that allows us to serve our citizenship clients that apply for citizenship with, equip them with the knowledge, with the information to be able to register to vote. That has always been like via texting. So that was something that we were able to do during that time really well, because we had already a system in place. So those type of platforms we were able to use to provide other services, the family reunification and other things. The one major thing that happened during this COVID closeout was we started a project called the Release Project, where we were able to assist folks that were detained by ICE in ICE detention centers in Georgia, for them to get release while they await adjudication on their case, because the situation in detention centers were not good. So folks that were prone to COVID, to COVID outcomes, we were able to submit applications. We started a project, and we were able to submit those petitions on behalf of detained folks in Georgia.
Thanks, Hayat. Again, this notion of having to be flexible and use that technology to expand our reach, something that we all keep talking about. What parts of this do we maintain as we go into our recovery phase now that we are, as you can tell, some of us are in office, some of us are out in the field. But how do we retain those technological advances that were forced to adopt? How do we retain those as we bring back in-person services so we can continue maximizing our reach? And again, a huge, example of flexibility, but also innovation and being willing to take on a new project during such a time of uncertainty with the pandemic, with the Release Project. And like you said, getting well over 70 people applications submitted to be released from ICE detention, which we know had higher rates of COVID than the general population, right? So it really was a matter, for us, it's a human rights matter, but it's also at that point, it's an individual right of health as well, right? If you know that you're in a position where you're more prone to be exposed, anything we can do to help someone gain release from that is something we wanted to do. And so just a real big shout out to that, to taking on that huge project to the immigration team. So thank you, Hayat. So there's a question that came in on the Q&A, and I think this person may already see the story arc that we're trying to lead here to. And that is, back in 2015 and 2016, we were reselling over 1,000 new community members, welcoming new refugees into our communities and helping them, to access some of these services and to start building, their future, new future here in the U.S. and in the Atlanta community. But we talked about what we've done through the COVID pandemic, but during this time, we also have a new administration who has already agreed or has committed himself, both in what has been said, but also through policy action, to actually increase the number of refugees that are going to be welcomed both to the U.S., but also specifically here into Georgia. And so, we're getting, we anticipate in the next fiscal year, we're going to be getting close to welcoming, roughly 900 to 1,000 refugees again. And, last 3 or 4 years, we've had such low numbers. Last year we were sold a little over 200 people. It's going to take us some time to sort of remember what it was like to serve 1,000 new arrivals on top of all the other great things we're already doing. So a question to each of you is, how are you and your teams preparing for increased arrivals and more refugee community members to serve? And maybe we will start this time with Amal again.
Thank you, Justin. Before I get into that, I just want to say that I am incredibly, and I think I speak for everyone, excited about resuming resettling families again, in terms of like having a consistent number having more people coming to the US. Myself and the resettlement manager are two of the first people who are involved in the resettlement process in terms of like receiving the information for people that are coming. And so every time we get that notification, it's a really hopeful and exciting process. And it's not just, of course, exciting for us in terms of like the work, but also knowing that these are people that have been in the pipeline for decades, some of them. And these are people that are waiting to reunite with family members, you know, siblings and parents and their children, you know, for a long time. So it creates a lot of possibilities, and it's really amazing process. And of course, you know, in the past we managed, we thrived. I think I would say when we were resettling 1,000, and you know, and so. And one of the things that we need to, you know, in terms of like getting or building up capacity to be able to support that level of arrivals would be, number one, we would need to make or expand our partnerships with property owners and managers, and making sure that we have adequate housing. And this is an effort, of course, that the Georgia Welcome Co-op, which is a partner that provides housing and furniture and supplies, what they're working on currently. And so that's one key area, is to make sure that we have the housing to be able to settle people in places that are safe and sanitary and in good condition. And another key thing, of course, is in terms of staffing. I know, for instance, that the resettlement team has been really involved in making sure that we are staffed with caseworkers who have been trained in advance of arrivals, so that they're ready to, you know, hit the ground running and start providing these casework services to our clients. And of course, this is not just, you know, with resettlement team, but specifically speaking about them. And also, obviously, as I've mentioned a few times, making sure that we have interpretation, making sure that we have double and triple, you know, the number of individuals per language, making sure that we have more diverse, you know, languages available, so that we can capture all kinds of newly arriving families. So yeah, that's what I would say we're focusing on.
Yeah, that's great. I think I was just sort of looking around again at all the panelists here, and I'm pretty sure everybody on this call have had new members added to their teams or their programs in the last several months, all anticipating new arrivals. And really, you know, big thanks to our funder of the resettlement program that's already kind of committed some funds up front to help us do that work, which I think is really smart, because we really would rather be proactive than reactive, because we know that community members don't get as good of services when we can't be proactive and really onboard and train people appropriately, so that they're ready and able to serve. So that's great. So thank you, Amal. Omar.
Yes. So, you know, that question, yeah, you know, took me to what we are doing, you know, as a team. So actually, you know, our team is a part of the National Resource Center and University of Minnesota for the like COVID education part. Because, you know, as you know, like there's a lot of misleading messages about the COVID vaccine and about the COVID. So we are working like and support the National Resource Center with the language and with the videos for the like specific topics, like to reduce the vaccine hesitancy among the community, and also to give them access to the trusted resources. And usually a big thank to our community and external relation manager, because usually she shared a lot of what we are doing and about a lot of information about the National Resource Center. And also, you know, with that like coming arrival or increased that, so we are planning to include the like during the cultural orientation and like a session about the COVID, and also about the like the right information about the vaccine, about the COVID, and also to give them the information about the vaccine sites, about the testing sites, and all over that.
That's awesome. Thank you, Omar. And I think so. Two things come up on that. to your point, and also back to reflect some of Amal spoke about, is we do expect to see a more diverse community of a group of arrivals as we've seen compared to what we may have seen over the last 3 or 4 years. So make sure we're prepared, to Amal's point, make sure not only we have language access, but also we make sure we're providing information around the realities of COVID, where it is, where we are in the process, what's available to community members in a language that they can access is really important. And just also your point, we're probably not going to have that like on-off switch that now we're in COVID response, now we're done with COVID response. And so you and your team will continue to work with new arrivals. We know that there's protocols new arrivals have to follow as it comes to COVID-19, like the CDC does ask that they voluntarily quarantine for 7 days. So again, that goes back to providing food and things for that new family for those first 7 days, but also making sure they have access to the vaccine or information about the vaccine should they want it. And so, yeah, you and your team are going to be probably busy in a new way we've not had to do in the past. So I'm really glad to have you and us ready to do that work. So thank you, Omar. Jennifer?
Yes, so in the Economic Empowerment Department, we've been working on the early employment team to build the capacity, adding more staff members and really getting ready to be ready for day one whenever those new arrivals arrive here in Georgia to get those first jobs, but also thinking more, not just that initial first 6 months, but thinking about building some pathway to continue to provide services afterwards. And we've recently developed what we call a financial empowerment team, which are working on developing processes of working with newly arrived clients on navigating the US financial system. So learning about banking and budgeting and credit and starting to build their credit pretty soon after arrival so that we can create that warm handoff to our asset building of either a match savings program, career development, going for that next level, higher skilled jobs, or starting a business with me, really thinking about how can we ramp up our capacity when they first arrive, but also creating that warm handoff to years to come on how we can continue to support them as they build their lives here.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Hayat, how about you and the immigration team?
Thank you, Justin. And the immigration program, we're currently just focusing on making sure we're fully staffed. And of course, when refugees first arrive, the very first thing that they would need from our program would be, the immigration program would be family reunification, because they don't apply for adjustment of status or anything like that within their first arrival. So making sure staff is trained up really well on filing refugee to follow petitions and ensuring that they're well aware so that the staff is well aware to make sure clients are submitting applications for affidavit of relationship as well.
Great, that's great. What great examples of, again, continuing to think of ways to ramp up our services as we anticipate and more arrivals. So we're at 12:49. I have one last question. We're going to get the panelists exactly 1 minute each to answer. And then we're going to leave the last 5 minutes for Q&A. So like I said earlier, Fiona and Kaylee are monitoring the chat and comments in Facebook. So hopefully about 5 minutes into that. But this sort of last question, official question to the panelists is, so often we talk about the Refugee Resettlement Program, as a humanitarian, human rights-based program approach. That's how we like to think about the work that we do. And that we realize and honor and uplift the humanity of those that we are so honored to serve, right? But it's also important that we don't lose the humanity of each other as colleagues in this work, and to honor and dignify all of us as individuals. Now we all bring different experiences and approaches and lived experiences to this work. So my last question in that spirit is, can each of you share a little bit with the community here, what calls you to do this work, into this line of service particularly? And what motivates you over the last 4 years, living through this pandemic, facing, looking forward to being busy again with new arrivals? What sustains you in this really critical, life-saving humanitarian work? And this time we're going to go a little reverse order. I don't know if we can start with Hayat. So Hayat, we'll start with you.
What motivates me is when when I'm assisting a client or helping the team assist a client, it's not just an application that we're doing. We are helping families reunite that were forced to split because of war. We are helping clients get their green card so they can continue to stay with no issue, so they can renew their driving license, so they could change jobs, become citizens, vote, go for government jobs. So that's what motivates me, seeing people, strive and having a little impact by just submitting one application in their lives. That's what keeps me moving.
And that little impact has those reverberations that just go on and on like pebble, a pebble dropped in a pond, So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Hayat. Amal?
I got started, I would say, this line of work because of my mom. When the civil war broke out in Somalia and we were fleeing, she was at the same time working for a nonprofit international community of the Red Cross and Crescent. And so her exposure and involvement and our experiences, fleeing war and moving to the US and everything kind of immersed me in this line of work. And I continue to work for an organization like the IRC because there's a need, right? And I have the skill sets and the experiences and also the understanding to be able to make a difference. And that's what keeps me going.
That's beautiful, Amal. Thank you. Omar?
So, serving the community is my passion. So, I feel like happy, especially before the pandemic, when I saw the parents smile and satisfy because their kids at school. And now, I feel like really I'm doing something and I'm there to serve them when you see that the relief expression on the faces when they get the vaccine. And that motivates me to wake up every day. And I just thought to everybody knows that sometimes that IRC members are working 7 days a week and sometimes during the weekend. So that's all motivate everybody to serve. And also, as Hayat said, a little impact on their life.
And great qualities of humility, as you all can tell as well, about little impacts that given 16,000 people access to COVID testing and over 6,000 vaccines. As you said, that's more than just a little impact. So thank you, Omar. Jennifer?
Thank you. For me, this is hard to put in a few words, but it comes down to living a life of service. And to me, that means figuring out how I can use my skills and interests in every day to help elevate, connect, and create access for others so that they can use their talents as well. When I think of entrepreneurs that I work with, they're able to identify a need, an opportunity, or a way to share their culture within our community. And I think it can only make us better.
Well said. Well said. I'm just really glad that the community members here got to meet 4 of the incredible people I am extremely honored to work with, here at the IRC. And we have such a team here made up of just as equally passionate, professional, brilliant, motivated, selfless servants, and it really is a sight to behold. So I'm really glad that the community got to know you all a little bit more. So right on time, 12:55. I have a bad habit of talking way too much, as Fiona and others like to remind me of. But we're keeping time pretty well right now. So we can have the last 5 minutes. I know Kaylee, do we have any comments, questions we think we should direct to some of us?
No questions for program staff. Y'all actually, there was a question from Candace that, she said that y'all addressed perfectly during your chat. So appreciate that. We do have a couple questions from some of our participants, from Martha and Betty, both kind of similar questions. Curious to know about when volunteers will be starting to utilize additional volunteers, and we'll start opening the office back up for some of our volunteer opportunities, including the Shop of Hope, et cetera. So I'm happy to take that a little bit. We are still in the process of As you can see, some of us are in the office and have our masks on today. Some of us are at home. So we're still in the process of this hybrid return to work model. We very much are prioritizing the health and the safety of our staff, of our clients, and of course of our volunteers and supporters as well. So with that said, we're still kind of in the process for clients and staff to start coming back, clients by appointment only. So as we kind of continue this trend, we're hoping to have the opportunity to have more volunteers back in person, probably closer to the end of the summer, but we're just not quite there yet. We're just trying to be cautious and careful. But if you are interested in volunteering with us, if you're not already on our mailing list, you can reach out to volunteeratl@rescue.org, or you can reach out to me personally. I'll pop my email in the chat for y'all to have it, and I'll make sure that you get on our communications list so you can stay up to date and get updates about when we'll be returning to in-person volunteer opportunities. And we actually do have another question from Sarah. And I think this can kind of go for everybody, but right now, what are we seeing as the greatest need from the community? Does anybody want to take that? Justin, do you want to start us off?
I can start us off. I mean, I think what we're seeing in terms of what we're looking at is, again, how do we maintain these really impactful programs that we have developed, especially over these last 3 or 4 years that we may not have had prior to the previous administration? How do we do that and also build up our capacity to welcome new arrivals as well, right? So that's something that's on our, but also acknowledging, like I said earlier, that we're also in this position of still having to address the pandemic, as well as, get ready for the future. And I think hopefully today we've shared some of the ways that we are doing those things, right? I think the other thing we're seeing from the community, that are top of mind of us is just how do we, again, continue to help community members access benefits that they may be eligible to. If so, there's still a lot of these federal funds floating around. And again, you have all the funds in the world, but if you don't know how to access them, it's not very helpful. And then, again, I know Amal and the resettlement team are always sensitive to the needs in the community. There's still people that are facing a lot of hard times economically, right? Yeah, there's more job opportunities, but there's other mitigating factors still, right? Childcare and other things. So it really takes a team to really mitigate the particular challenges of each individual. I think if broaden out the response a little bit in terms of what do we need from the community, meaning of our supporters. I think one of we already talked on is volunteers, and I think we see some volunteer opportunities we have now. We'll have more as we go forth. It's probably going to be also same mentality. How do we also continue to provide hybrid or online opportunities for people to contribute? We hear so many times like, I need an opportunity, but outside of this particular time that you have right now, how do we help those people plug in? I think the other thing is, we know moving forward, there's going to be a real big focus on sponsorships and working with community groups who can, help us and work with us as we serve the community, right? Through sponsoring families and arrivals. So I know that's something we're going to be talking about in terms of strengthening our community partnerships. So if you're a member of or faith-based community that'd be interested in having those conversations more, please reach out. We can give you all of our email addresses. The easiest one probably is just our general Atlanta inbox, which is atlanta@rescue.org. You can also reach out on Facebook or on Instagram as well. And again, I think the last one, and maybe this will be one we can close on. I hope today you saw a small example of the large commitment that this organization it has to serving the community. And yes, it does take dedicated, talented, committed professionals such as those folks on this call and on this panel, but it also takes a plethora of community supporters, advocates, and champions in the community to help us make this work possible, right? And so, I think the biggest thing that people can also do is also just help by volunteering as well as making donation, right? To help support this work. The real reality of trying to support community members to serve community, right? And so that's also a way you can support. Every donation goes to making this and so much more possible. I hope that was a sufficient answer. We're already about a minute over. So I think maybe to respect everybody's time, again, I want to really thank all of you for being on this call today. I want to thank Amal and Hayat and Omar and Jennifer for taking time out of their day to share with us their work. I want to thank Kaylee and Fiona for the background support and putting all this together. And want to thank the wider staff of the IRC here in Atlanta for all that they do, because it really is a team effort. No one person's job is more critical than another person's job in this organization. And it's through a collective of brilliant, committed individuals that we make the impact in the community. So I want to thank all of the staff here at the IRC in Atlanta. And like I said, thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us. And like, if you want to learn more, please visit our website. Again, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram at IRC Atlanta. I think we've shared some links and email addresses. If this is a recording, you don't see the chat, you can always just email us at atlanta@rescue.org, and that goes to general email box, and we'll make sure the message gets to where it needs to go. So with that, anything left at final, Kaylee?
No, that's all. And I just want to reiterate, thank you all so much to my amazing colleagues for joining us today. You really are inspiring, like truly. I learned even more about you. I hope that, our wonderful panelists enjoyed this experience. It sounds like the folks that joined us really had a wonderful time. So just thank you all so much again. I popped some emails in the chat for folks that do want to reach out with some additional questions. And also, just a very quick plug, we are also having a World Refugee Day event on Sunday in Clarkston at Refuge Coffee from 5 to 8 p.m. You can find the information on Facebook for the Coalition of Refugee Serving Agencies, CRSA. So please check that out too. And we hope to hopefully see you in person on Sunday. So thank you all again.
Thank you, everybody.